Iraq. Oh, this is a dead end. This is the next street. I'm doing my walks, right? Unless you guys been living under a rock, I've said this for the last couple of years that us as black people, we ain't from Africa. Sorry, it's a little windy. Shit happens. It's like feels good out here. It feels beautiful. But with all these gray hairs and this bald head, this contains a lot of knowledge. And it contains knowledge that I was afraid to share when I was younger, and I was afraid to think outside the box, sort of thing, right? So I'm gonna make this real fast. I'm gonna try to get this in within the next 5 to 8 minutes. We're not from Africa. Black Americans, we're not from Africa. We never were. We Half of us don't have no connection to Africa. Nothing, in my opinion. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but I always look at things from a non-emotional standpoint and an emotional standpoint. From an emotional standpoint, we can be from Africa. Okay, cool, we're from Africa, but that gets us nothing, right? It didn't get us reparations. It didn't get us fair treatment. It didn't get us practically anything. Oh, and also, by the way, in most cases, the Africans that do occupy this country, along with the Caribbeans, why don't they like us? They don't like us because they know the truth. We're not from Africa. We never were. We don't look like them. We don't dress like them. We don't talk like them. We don't have the same culture as them. It's not even close. Now here's where your emotions kick in, right? Somehow us as black people, we always want to blame slavery, right? In terms of because of slavery, we didn't get the education that we needed, right? Up until all the way up into the 1960s, which we became free in the 1960s, right? Completely free on paper, meaning no Jim Crow, meaning no no treatment on purpose will go against us. But we know, like always, we still get mistreated. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that I realized. That here's what I made. See, when you start asking questions, you can get answers. But see, all the generations before us did not ask questions, except for one generation. That was the generation that was basically like the baby boomers. But the baby boomers started, it's not a rebellion, but started to get things going for us to think for ourselves, right? So here's the thing that I realized too. We weren't really from Africa. I was thinking, see, I read a book around about 17, 18 years ago. I can't remember the name of the book, but it talked about being like the early settlers in America and stuff like that, right? So I was checking this shit out and I was like, damn, the early settlers, it was wow, what happened, right? So the early settlers, your Christopher Columbus type that we all knew that they lied about that, they had voyages to come over here into the new world, which was the West, America, right? Now, the early settlers, what I read in this book, for the life of me, I'll find in what's the name? My ex gave me the book, so I really don't want to call her or text her and say, "Hey, what's that book?" No, whatever. But so the early settlers that came over here, according to the book, that came over from Europe, they were slaves. They were killed as soon as, like the book says, as soon as they got off the ship. That was it. The natives were the natives were waiting for them. Like the natives were making sure that hey, you ain't stepping foot on this soil, which was America and the Caribbean. You're not stepping foot on this soil and developing a colony. We're gonna slay you. Now, according to the book, there was 3 voyages, right? The first voyage, 100 men, all killed. Soon as they all ran up, they didn't even get a chance to get in the in part of the land at the time, which was the Caribbean. They slayed them, right? The Caribbean people killed them. Then they found themselves in places like Georgia and the Carolinas and parts of all that little area of the South, Florida, right? Same thing happened. Sent the voyage, they killed the people, right? These were the European people. The European people were getting killed by the locals here in America, right? It wasn't until like the fifth or the sixth voyage, the Europeans that were coming over here were smart. Okay, when I brought 100 men to fight, all our men are getting killed because we don't know the terrain, we don't know land or anything. So the Europeans wised up and got smart, and they started bringing women and children here. Now, this is just a history lesson about the country. Let me get back to why we're not from Africa. Now, did you hear the part when I said when they got off the ships, they were killed instantly? They were slayed. They didn't get to any part of the inner part of the country. They were slayed off the coast, right? So that makes total sense if you got a bunch of randos just showing up in your country and you don't even know who these people are. You got a whole group of black people and then a whole ship full of white people come over here. They slaved those people, right? So, but here's the kicker. Now the Europeans got smart. They brought women and children for the fifth or the sixth voyage. So because the natives here in America wasn't savages, they only fought the soldiers. They let the women and children survive. They didn't kill the women and children because a part of history was kind of like if you go to war, you leave the women and children. It was only a small group of um, armies that will actually hurt women and children, if you know what I mean. So here's the kicker. So if we're from Africa, like they said, I have some questions, right? Which I don't think we are, but I have some questions. Here's the question. If we were from Africa, what was the kings doing when the white people showed up to the land and they never seen white people before? Why didn't the kings say, we ain't about to trade with y'all, nigga. We don't know y'all. I'm sure they said that we don't know y'all. But why would a king, and they said, well, the kings traded indentured servants, which was us, they traded us away for whatever. Well, that doesn't make sense at all either. Because Africa is the only place in the world that doesn't need to trade with anyone. Every single resource was right there on that land. I'm talking about cattle. Do they not have cattle in Africa? Because we're talking about the early 1300s, even earlier. They have cattle in Africa. They don't need cattle. They had weapons. They didn't need weapons. What would be the reason why you would trade with these people? These foreign people that you've never seen. You've never seen white people before. We talking about Africa where there ain't no textbooks back then. They ain't no fucking there ain't nothing wild back then that you could read about white people. They have no clue who these people were. So you can't tell me that in Africa when they came over there, they probably did the same shit. When the white people touched down in Ghana, they probably slaved them too, right? They slaved them too because that's a natural instinct of back then. Like if a whole group of Africans, let's take Ghana because every black person want to go to Ghana now, right? So a whole people, a whole people, a group of people from Ghana goes over to Spain. What do you think the Spanish is going to do when they see that whole ship of Africans? Are they not going to slay them too? My camera's a little dirty. Are they not going to slay them too? Yeah, they slayed them too, probably, right? So, but that's the question I want to ask. If we're from Africa, why did they send a million of us? And then they say that only less than 30% of the slaves made the actual 4,600 mile fucking trip to the coast of the United States. Well, they didn't come to the United States first. Technically, they went to the Caribbean first. See, this is how I know, like, they be lying about all this shit. They be lying. Always work this route, and it's the same two dogs. That's how I know that they be lying to us because a lot of the stories in which they tell, like my lady always say, it's like a game of telephone. A lot of the stories that they tell didn't make sense because they don't want you to know that you're an American. They don't want you to, with this skin, this black skin, they don't want you to call you an American. And and to tell you the truth, where it really came from, if y'all want to be totally honest, I know a lot of y'all are not ready to have this conversation, but a lot of that comes from the mindset of people that has a liberal mindset, if you know what I mean. Because one thing liberals are great at compared to conservatives is to play up everyone as if they're your friends. A la Malcolm X even said it in the fucking 60s. And even Dr. Martin Luther King said it in the 60s. Both of them slayed, right? Now, I don't think I'm going to get slayed because no one's probably going to believe me or watch this video. But one thing I do know is we ain't from Africa. It doesn't make sense. We don't look like Africans. We don't talk like Africans. We have no connection to Africans. Africans don't dress like us. We don't eat the same food. And now people will say, oh, well, it's because you've been over here in America. No, 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 no. No, no, no. DNA don't change. And they lied to you about your damn DNA too. DNA does not change. So if it's more likely, what I mean by DNA don't change, right? It's more likely that what's down deep in your blood, you can't get rid of. So if you're from Africa, if it's down deep in your blood that you from Africa, you still are going to like some of the things that the Africans like. We don't even eat like the Africans. I don't see not many niggas saying, I done been around niggas my whole life from the suburbs to the motherfucking hood. I ain't never seen a nigga say, hey man, let's go get some of that African food. Let's go get some of that fufu. Nigga, we not from Africa, nigga, we from here. We from here. They just don't want you to know you from here. Cause then if you from here, you gonna start demanding things. You gonna be like, hold on, nigga, we Americans and y'all was putting us, y'all was y'all was doing this fucking Jim Crow shit. Y'all was doing this slavery shit to your own fucking people. And the truth of the matter is, yes, they was. But a lot of y'all can't accept that because y'all are afraid. Y'all scared. And see, I was too. I was scared for a long time. But I've been having these thoughts in my head since I was a little kid, since I was a little boy, and asking questions. And when I started, how I knew something was up is when I started to ask questions. I started to ask questions. I seen how offended grown ass motherfuckers got with me just asking questions as a kid. And I'm just a kid. I ain't even a grown nigga. I'm just a kid asking questions, inquiring, doing what kids do. And because they didn't have an answer for me, because they couldn't do the research, because they didn't want to do the research, because they were older in their 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s, they didn't want to think they were not from Africa. See, I know that we're not from Africa because this shit don't make sense. Now, if it made sense, I'll be like, okay. It don't make sense. I'm gonna just ask this question: where's the ships? Where are the slave ships? One thing white people love more than any fucking thing in this world is guns and history. Where are the slave ships? I'll wait. They got paintings, paintings from 5,000 years ago. They have firearms from 5,000 years ago. They have coins from 5,000 years ago. They have everything from 5,000 years ago except for slave ships. And somehow, I guess, when did we stop doing fucking slavery and transporting slaves, according to y'all? the 1800s. That's not that. That's not that long ago. That's not 10,000 years ago. So technically, those wooden ships to this day would still be able to sail on the water. Maybe not rough seas, but it should be able to say do rough seas. But considering that y'all did over a million fucking slaves, so as I kind of realized and I get older, that like a lot of shit that we were taught was just lies to kind of keep us controlled and kind of keep us like within a certain way of thinking. I can say it's predictable thinking. So like I know that okay, if I told black folks this and they believe it, well let's go with it. You know, a lot of times back then, a lot of stuff was just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what stuck. Like if you ever watch older movies, right? How can I explain this? There's always a person like movies from like gangs of New York, like that type of shit, like way back then. There's always a person that sits on a corner and tell a bunch of tales, right? They're the entertainer, they're the joker type of thing. And I think that a lot of shit back then, people were just throwing against the wall and see what stuck. So if I told black people, because we're emotional people and black people don't want to admit this, we're emotional people. How we connect with the world and how we interact with people is through our emotions as black people. As much as black people want to say that ain't the case, gray hair, bald head. That's all my emotions. My emotions. Now you could be like, oh well that's hereditary. Nah, nah, nah. If I wasn't an overthinker and an emotional man, I wouldn't have a completely gray beard at 43. Well, about to be 43. And a bald head. No, most people that's super duper emotional goes through hormone imbalance and then boop, hair, grays, wisdom, right? So I'm talking a lot, but I just want y'all to know that yeah, we not from fucking Africa. Stop telling black kids that bullshit. And really where it comes from, see, really where it comes from is being a liberal. We still see. I'm no longer a liberal. I'm not a liberal, and I can't call myself a Christian anymore because I don't know what that means. Because until I do the full research of what Christianity is, I'm not a Christian. Because the Christian version of what y'all told me, if everything is true, the Christians has a connection to slavery, and it was the same religion of our slave masters. So why the fuck would I want to be a Christian when y'all oppress people under that for not just 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? We're talking about thousands of years. You oppress people under that. And a lot of y'all know this and is afraid to ask questions about it. I'm not afraid no more. So maybe this video can give a lot of y'all a voice of, hey, something ain't right since we're dealing with the information age. So something ain't right with this shit. We ain't from Africa though. We ain't. It don't make sense. It don't make sense that you brought over a million doggone slaves and you lost 700,000 of them. You kept less than 30%. You kept less than 30% made it over here to this land. And then somehow you have to sell this 30% and make a profit in a foreign land that you've never been to. Come on, man. I wasn't born last night, bro. But I get it. A lot of y'all are afraid. I'm not trying to wake y'all up. I'm not trying to tell y'all to think differently. But a lot of y'all are afraid to think outside the box, and it's okay. I was one of them. I had to stand up to my mother at 10 years, well, not 10, what, at 8 years old when I knew something wasn't right with the religion that she was fucking a part of. And I guess what? I was right. I was spot on. Because that same religion, when it was time, when my mother got sick with cancer, then people weren't coming over there to help her. Them people didn't come over there and wish her well. They didn't help pay for the cremation services what my mother went through. My sister paid for all that. You know, I was a kid. I was young. You know, I think I was like 17 or something like that when she got. No, I was 16 when she got real, real sick. But yeah, Like a lot of this shit, man. Once I figured out that we wasn't from Africa, it was like it kind of just opened my whole fucking mindset up to we've been being lied to for a long time. And it's up to y'all, man. Y'all can decide to think however you want to think and do whatever the fuck you want to do with the information. Information is out there. If you want to be free, like I'm starting a journey of being completely free, thinking for myself. Fuck all this shit I was taught as a kid. All that shit I was taught as a kid was to benefit, really just to benefit a white man. Because it wasn't taught to benefit us as black folks. There ain't a single fucking thing that black folks can think back that's around my age that we were given as part of our culture that uplifted us and made us feel good and made us feel what's in. Everything was centered around oppression and how fucked up things were. So name one thing part of your childhood that you can say as black folks, it uplifted us, knowing we were from Africa. Nah, man, that shit ain't uplift you. You know it. Cause you wasn't from there. That's why all this shit make you feel when you talk about slavery, how you don't got the real gist of what the fuck went down. Cause they lying to your dumb ass. You just believe it because you want to connect with because you're emotional and you want to connect with the past. You want to connect with something that you believe is your history. That ain't your history. Your history is right here in this country. Your history is where your daddy was born, where your mama was born, where their parents was born. We were born here, man. Three, and then here's the thing: most of us black kids that's like my age, and I'll end on this note. I'll be 43. Most of the black kids that's from my age, how the fuck are we gonna be from Africa or anywhere else when the last fucking 5 generations? My last name is Holly. The 5 generations of Hollies was born here, but we from Africa. My mama was born here. My daddy was born here. Their parents was born here. The parents before that was born here. So how the fuck are we not Americans? See, y'all don't ask questions because y'all afraid. Y'all afraid because when y'all ask questions when y'all was a kid like I was, y'all got hit. So it's something to think about.